Hey everybody, welcome back to the next episode of the Anime4All podcast. I am by myself, sad world, hashtag lonely as me. I don't know if I can go any further with this, but we are here to talk about the recent episode of My Hero Academia, and also the other episodes that we didn't talk about last week, which was Shaman King. Uh, but I guess before I get into this, I think if I like from here on, right all the way to the end of this month of September, more than likely it will be just me. My co-host is on a extended vacation, much deserved, and I thought I'd just do this one for sure on September it's 13th. Yeah, September 13th. To make sure I got this out because the episode of My Hero Academia that just released was very important to talk about, and I really want to get my thoughts out. As for thoughts on of my co-host, I will probably discuss that with him. Maybe if he wants to take some time out to do that. But he may or may not. He may just give his like short to the point. I mean, his short, sweet, what he liked about it, because that's typically how he is. But I guess before we do that, we're gonna go forward with the usual analytics of every week. This has become a thing now. Since last time, I think we went up by a follower. We're now sitting at 5 followers. So thank you everybody who likes this podcast enough to want to follow it. I'm guessing. As for other analytics, we haven't been doing too well. Again, we're at the very beginning of September. I suspect that once the like, well, I guess I suspect once this part of the arc for My Hero goes down, we will more than likely spike. I don't know, so we will eventually see. But it ain't that bad. I mean, we're 67 biggest downloads in the last 30 days. 238 of all time though, so I mean, hey, we got that going for us. I'm also working on trying to get back up to releasing the podcast that goes out the week prior to the podcast that you're listening to right now, so I get better. And hopefully, what will happen is I'll get to the point where I have uploaded the episodes the day of, so that way they'll be live one day, and then the following day, and more likely they'll be the podcast itself will be up on the RSS. I'm gonna try to get better at that, so that way we're doing it week by week. So we'll see about that as well. I think what I want to do here is because my co-host left me some notes for Shaman King because he watched them last week. In preparation to review them that week, but because I said that I thought we were just doing My Hero, he left me the notes behind. So, yay! I'm taking credit for his hard work. I mean, what? So I guess we're gonna talk about episodes 15 and 16 of Shaman King. And we're gonna get right into My Hero Academia. So at the end of the podcast, you will hear more about My Hero if that's where you want to be. I say skip probably. I don't know how long it was gonna be because I'm not sure how long I'll be live for this. But skip further a little ahead. You'll get what you want. Eventually by the end of this podcast. But okay, so we're gonna talk about episode 15 of Shaman King. When the pieces come together. And I guess on my thoughts, we get a little bit more about how, and we find out that he is indeed 1,000 years old, or close to it. You see here on the notes that we have here, yeah, he's he's about 1,000 years old, because he kind of came back, he got reincarnated much sooner than I'm guessing he was supposed to. That's a whole other kettle of fish we have to talk about later. His full name was Asakara Yo, also known as the Great An Miyuki. There is something here that is linked to a Wikipedia page. I figure he probably did this because he figured this is interesting. Yodo, which is a word they used in the episode. I think it's the art of Amiyodo. Apparently, it literally translates into the way of the yin and yang, and it's apparently a system of natural science, astronomy, almanac, divination, and magic that developed independently in Japan based on Chinese philosophies of yin and yang. And Wujing, the 5 elements. I guess you figure this is interesting because they bring it up here, and they bring up how important this actually is in terms of mastering the arts of controlling spirits, which is also very important here because they bring up that Hao has mastered this way, this jutsu is what they say in Japanese, this technique to control his spirit, which is the reason why he's able to reincarnate, and he can do it at will because he's mastered this. Here, in short, he actually has something I should be using here, was like the philosophy Vamayodo. I think I'm probably butchering that. I'm gonna get a lot of hate for that, but oh well. I'm not of Japanese descent. What would I like to be? Or at least of Asian descent of any situation. But that's I'm rambling here. But see, his philosophy is developed in Japan, but it was based on Chinese philosophies of yin and yang, which is important. We have fire, which I think is Huo, water, Shui, wood, Mu, metal or gold, Jin, earth or soil, too. I'm pretty sure I'm mispronouncing that. I'm 100% sure I'm mispronouncing it for sure, for certain. For certain? For the shirt? I okay. Like I say, it's employed in many fields of early Chinese thought, including thought of early Chinese thought, including the seemingly the disparate fields such as Yijing divination, alchemy, Feng Shui, astrology, traditional Chinese medicine. So this is actually in real life. This was used as the basics of early Chinese civilization. This is how they found metals. This is how they did their science, alchemy, feng shui, which was like the way that the energies align in a spot. Or feng shui, I think it's actually how you pronounce that. I'm butchering that all the way. I don't care. I'm American. I mean, astrology, traditional Chinese medicine. So traditional, not the modern Chinese medicine, whatever that is. Music, their military strategy, and martial arts, which we all know. Chinese martial arts is a lot about breathing and the way you move your body. I believe this is kind of the same way with Japan as well. Um, I like from what I can remember about this episode though, it was very what's the word I'm looking for? Very origin heavy with how it shows that How's at least 1,000 years old. They bring his connection with the Asakara family. I think with basically understanding, it sounds like it sounds like Hao was initially a part of the Asakara line, but pretty much maybe not actually, because the way they talk about it, it almost seems like he was meant to be. He was actually a part of the family, but maybe he wasn't. But he lost his way and essentially wants to destroy the world. You get to the end of this, like, he wants to destroy the world, will destroy the current world and make a new world for the shamans. Apparently, he went to the world of the gods and came back, and he came back this way. So, apparently, prior to this, he was a decent, level-headed person, apparently, and lost his way when he was taken into the spirit world, I'm guessing. Seems actually very odd. So, I don't know what happened in there. They make it sound like he was a pretty decent dude until that fact. So what Yo says, like, it can't be all bad. It's like, okay, well, I'm guessing he's right. Seems kind of odd, but hey, I guess yin and yang, a good example of there's always like the philosophy there is that there's evil and good, and there's also good and evil, is the way they like to that's how that symbol works, which is a cool way to look at it if you believe that. Let's see here, like 5 points of the pentagram in the anime represent 5 elements. Yeah, we saw that. System of natural science, astrology, almanac, divination. He repeated that for a reason. He's alive and he's currently competing. How is alive and currently competing and has reincarnated himself into the current body he's in. They also bring up Taizun Fukun. I butchered that. Ancient Chinese name for Enma. I don't know what Enma is. I don't know there's any real, based on the fact that there's no notes here talking about Enma. I don't think Enma has any. Like it was like, well, here Enma just took me to Buddhism, so it has some like. Oh, I guess Enma might be one of the princes of hell. And it seems like the Princess of Hell thing have something to do with Buddhism. I was not aware of that. East Asia and Eastern Asia, East Asian and Buddhist mythology. Yama sometimes is referred to King of Hell, King Yan, Yam, Nyamla, wrathful god to judge the dead and preside over them. Yeah, it's kind of like from Dragon Ball Z, King Yama. I think that's what his name is, King Yama. But he doesn't. He kind of presides over heaven and hell in that universe. He sends people to heaven. He sends people to HFIL. Is what they use there. Whatever reason, Enma takes me here to Buddhism. So there's some connection to Buddhism in Enma. But funnily enough, Buddhism looks like it's something that's practiced heavily in China, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, Vietnam, uh, Bhutan, Mongolia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Cambodia, Myanmar, and Laos. That's interesting. Very interesting, actually. I think actually Buddhism might still be alive. I can't. I know some religions are pretty dead, but I think Buddhism is not. Oh, King Yima is his name. Oh, that's probably why Enma is supposed to be. I guess there's another name for the guardian of to the gates of hell, which actually kind of makes sense. Hey, we see reference to Spelunky. That's actually kind of funny. Um, yeah, there's a lot of references to Enma. So apparently, Enma, and at the very core of Enma, must mean it's just that he's talking about an actual physical entity that guards the gates to hell in that religion. Um, this is talking about a spell book that how bound with two is most powerful, like Shikigami. That actually, funnily enough, almost kills. Well, it doesn't really almost kill anybody because Anna ends up like destroying them easily, which in turn hurts Hal not pretty badly, but it definitely hurts Hal because we see him bleeding in the next scene after that happening. Let's see here, the spell book. It holds the secrets to like beating Hal, and it only Hal's descendants can use it, aka Yo Asakura is the only one that can use it. Pretty much, yeah, as I said before, breaking the seal unleashes the two Shikigami. Ponchi and Kanchi, Tomoa is spirits and running away like cowards. Another thing, which is kind of funny. My co-host brings up too here that in his notes that they kind of look like Ren and Stimpy at that moment, which is kind of funny. Uh, he wants to bring up here in his notes that there's a scene in which Yo is sent a package, and the literal translation is industrial hemp. Even while he's not here, he's ruining the the forwardness of a lot of this conversation we're having. That's between me and the viewer. But hey, um, we've already known that Horror was a snowboard shaman, which is kind of cool. Uh, Apparently, I guess he didn't write this stuff down, which is why I was writing it down now. Is like the Dowser Lyserg. His Shikigami is named, well, not Shikigami, his spirit is named Morphine. I think this episode is this episode where they, yeah, this is also the episode I forgot. I guess the major portion of this episode too is about Horror and him like showing off how much he got stronger because we see him like helping protect a bear in the forest from actually getting killed by some poachers, which ironically he still gets killed by some poachers. Actually, spoiler alert. As he's trying to help the bear calm down because the bear itself had encounters with humans when he was younger and had a shotgun to the face, and his right eye, I believe, is the one that got messed up. And he spent most of his life hating humans. We come to find out the main reason why he was doing that was because in fact, the bear, in fact, couldn't go back to his like his family because they smelled the humans, and he didn't like humans because humans shot him. It was like a bunch of like just a lot of bad things happening all at once. Horror ends up being able to calm the bear down, and as he does that, the bear gets shot and gets killed. Horror ends up getting revenge on the humans by just knocking them out, using his new attack with like what looks to be like a wooden sword like um, appendage that he has now. Well, not appendage, but like a new totem like looking thing that he has in his hand. So he shows off a new technique that he now has. Well, two new techniques: an owl shield, and then a sword technique. It pretty much ends with the girl that he ends up meeting prior to this, promising that she'll take him to the city Dorolingo, I think it is, because that's where Yo and all the others are going. I think that's about it. I mean, this episode's an interesting episode in itself. It shows you got a little bit of how it's got a little bit of horror. It's got a little bit of how in it, which kind of leads into the next episode. Of it mostly deals with Hal and his influence on people. Fairly notes here about Shaman King, episode 16. He titles it the Enter the Ultra Pompadour, which is mostly a Rio-based episode. His notes here is that they break the fourth wall a lot. A lot of things are said, such as like you overlap in character, which is kind of weird for Ren to say. Stakes get raised mainly due to the fact that Hal's lackeys, at least 5 of them, I believe, 4 or 5 of them show up, preventing Yo and his crew from progressing through the patch village that they managed to get to after they make it to Dorolingo. Drive out into the they actually drive out at the beginning of the episode. They actually are driving in the direction of the patch village. They get there, and as they're like finding out that this place is a tourist attraction, they go further into the back of the village, and they see a do not enter sign. As they're about to enter that do not enter sign, they get stopped by a couple of Hal's lackeys, and they find out that Hal has sent them out to kill his 4 best friends. I guess as a way to separate Yo from his friends. I'm guessing he believes that Yo has no need for friends. He's going to prove that to him in this episode. And the main part of this episode that we're going to focus on here is the fight between Ryu and Boris Tepes Dracula. And before anybody says it, yes, he's actually related to the real life Vlad Tepes Dracula. I did some research to make sure this guy was a real person, and he is actually a real person. Vlad was alive in the 1400s, like the mid 1400s. He's actually kind of important of a character, and it's funny because Boris here is a direct descendant of his. And he kind of fakes being Vlad Dracula here. He ends up actually biting Lyser, the guy with the dowsing ability, and it knocks him out. And then he ends up fighting Ryu because Ryu gets pissed off, and Ryu is kind of holding his own for a little bit until Vlad starts using his blood wings to fend his spirit attacks off, and then immediately starts attacking Ryu with pig bats. I think it's a common thing in whatever reason in this time and era of a show like this is this thing that bats look like pigs. It's very odd. I didn't understand it then. Definitely understand it now. As they're fighting, Yo is gonna get involved, and all of a sudden, Lazark, who is now possessed by the spirit that Boris is actually enslaving, and pretty much puts him in like a no holds barred situation where if he moves, Lannister is gonna stab himself. And as this is all happening, he goes into his whole backstory about how, the spirit that he's possessed when he was alive hunted his family. He's enslaving his spirit for him to pay pittance for what he's done to his family. Yo, being the ever so easygoing individual that he is, ends up realizing how to get through this, and so do his friends, and they all break free. And after all this happens, Ryu goes to reveal a new technique of his, and they cut the episode off. In typical late 90s, early 2000s anime fashion, they cut the episode as he's about to reveal his new technique. After a speech of like unending friendship, you see this really cool six-headed snake attack, and we don't get to see what its name is. I'm very, very upset about this. Because it was like getting to the point where Ryu was starting to be really cool, and then they cut it off. So either it's not gonna work in the next episode, or it's gonna be a one-hit kill thing, and it's gonna send Boris on his behind, and they go after the rest of Howl's minions. I'm betting on the latter, but there's also a possibility that it could be a combination of both. Not much to say on that. These episodes are really good. They had a lot. They had a lot to them. At least the first episode of this review had a lot to it. Second episode had a little bit more about Hal involved in it. It's starting to look like we're going to get more and more into like Hal and his purpose here in the show. So it's going to be interesting, I guess, from here on out to see what Hal is going to be doing. And I guess with that, we're going to get into what everybody is waiting for. Jeez, that didn't last long. We're only 30 minutes in. Okay, this episode is, well, next thing we're going to review is the My Hero episode called, where is it? It's called Tenko Shiramura Origin. And, we're gonna go bit by bit here. Starting off the episode, we essentially have, Twice huddled around Toga because she's lost a lot of blood. And essentially he goes and starts measuring her to make a duplicate of her so he can transfuse blood into her. You'll see here that for whatever reason, Twice is like the one with the mask off. His arms are good. So at some point his arms weren't dislocated enough, or either that his clones managed to relocate his arms. They actually go on arguing. Each of the clones is arguing about who will, measure Toga, which is kind of creepy. She's 17 freaking years old. Yeah, and they keep on going on about like, they're gonna have to transfuse blood, but it's not gonna be enough to save her. He goes on making a promise that he's gonna go save her, and we cut to the intro. I guess with this, what I want to say is like, Twice's character is really starting to he's starting to amp up here. Considering I know what I know about his character, and I'm still pretty upset about it. For two reasons: because I know about it, and two, I really don't want it to happen. But hey, I'm not the creator of the show or the manga, so I have to take it by stride, I guess. As I go through a lot of this intro here, skip over it. After the intro, we cut to Spinner, trying to get to whoever this guy is, this political leader. So weird, this political leader with the voice technique. And essentially, this guy reveals that he has the name of the spinner is actually Shinguchi. Yeah, the name of the spinner is his real name, and actually is Shuichi Iguchi. And reveals that here the guy leading the Hearts and Minds ends up revealing another patented item, the Servant's Loud, and essentially he amps up every hero in the vicinity around him, and it makes him powerful enough. His name is Koku Hanabata, his code name. Insight. Well, his quirk, name is Insight. The electromagnetic waves in his voice actually incites everybody around him and makes them more willing to attack, which is shown here because now they're on a par with Twice's multiplying ability. We actually get another glimpse at another exploding person, which is even creepier. We see that apparently Spinner's only ability with his quirk is to stick to walls, because his quirk, his name is Gecko. Seems kind of lame. That's all his quirk is allows him to do. Because you got people like Frobby who got more abilities from being a frog. So I don't know, like there's got to be more to his ability than we currently know. Spinner is having a hard time because like as he's trying to like help Shigaraki, he's having a hard time because like all these heroes here are just like proving to be too much for him. It's actually really crazy, like how much trouble like he's having. But I mean, I guess his quirk is kind of lame. And he actually kind of comes to terms with this too, as he's being berated by the Hearts and Minds dude. But he's saying that he's not anything special, but he wants to be able to do what he can. And I guess we also get to hear his reasoning for sticking around with Shigaraki. Main reason, he wants to see the kind of world that Shigaraki is going to create. It doesn't seem that he's too bothered that Shigaraki is a villain, which is the one thing I always thought, like, wonder why he's so fixated on Shigaraki. But yeah, he really he's kind of admirable in the way that he knows he's a nobody, but he doesn't care. So I mean, like, there's not much to really say here about that. He really wants to take on Shigaraki's load that could be taken in so many different ways. But I'm pretty sure he's talking about like Shigaraki's wants and desires. We cut away from Spinner's ordeal to see the aftermath of the building falling on everybody from the last episode. Garen survives thanks to twice his clones being turned to goo. And as the dust clears, we see Redestro in his big form, his like very muscular ogre-looking form. Apparently in that building there was 110,000 people that Shigaraki killed as they were falling on there. That seems kind of ridiculous. And now Shigaraki is like just taunting him now. He's like, as we another, we get to see a really interesting look at Shigaraki's face. You also see like Shigaraki's quirk, like I would say unbound, but it doesn't seem to do much because like Redestro ends up jumping into the air and punches the ground like an All Might smash would. And he pretty much asking him like, how are you feeling? He's like, of course I'm mad. We also learned that apparently Jock gets confirmation here that the coloring discoloration on his face has a lot to do with his quirk. And apparently his name is Rikuya Yatabushi. His quirk is named Stress. He can store up stress to turn it into power. I kind of look at it as like Hulk. It seems ridiculous, but it's like I would say that it's kind of like Hulk, but his clothes for the reason seem to be able to change shape, because he can get bigger in his clothes and they stay on. But I guess enough of that. We see Redestro grab onto Shigaraki and grab his palms and then starts breaking them. It's a very disturbing look actually. It's like he's breaking his fingers between his index finger and his thumb. And as this is happening, Shigaraki has a flashback to his origin, aka episode's title, Tenko Origin. We see pretty much go back to when he was with All For One, when All For One still had a face. We see his hands of all his family members. His grandmother, grandfather, father, mother, sister. Shigaraki had a sister, apparently. We also see here that his hair is white and his eyes are red. He looks very disheveled. And then we go back from there and we go all the way back to the very beginning. And his older sister, looks a lot like Nana Shimura. It's probably on purpose because she was probably the closest person to him back when he was a little kid. In this flashback, it like really like from what I remember watching this too, like I find it interesting how much Tenko, like how much he looked like Deku as a little kid. His hair was black, he had like a lot of hope and promise. Like I like to compare Shigaraki to Deku. If like, Deku didn't have like people on his side when wanted to help him realize his dream. We cut back from that and we cut back to the present here. And essentially, as his hands are being crushed, he has a lot of emotions like flow through him. And this is happening. His ring finger and his pinky finger end up touching the index finger of Redestra, and it breaks his skin. And this is notable because up to this point, we were under the assumption that Shigaraki could only activate his quirk if he had all his fingers touching something. But here, his pinky and his index and his ring finger are the only thing touching. And as this is happening, he's having more flashbacks. We see a glimpse of his mother, who actually happens to be a redhead. Let's learn that apparently Shigaraki's meta ability is progressing. Just to learn more that apparently the power scaling isn't actually as random as we think, Jock. I'm saying this as as if he's actually watching this. And Shigaraki now looks like he's unbound. We also seen the fruits of his training with Gargantua Makia. Like, he's much faster, and apparently Redestra calls it graceful. And he also brings the fact that Shigaraki should have been able to take down one or two villains back at the Kamui incident. But like, he's apparently his training, as we all know here, is actually paying off. He's actually really freaking quick, much quicker than he was in the past. And like we get Redestra here like saying that he knows how he's done this, and he's trained his stress the same way, and he ups his stress to 80% liberation is what he calls it. He says playtime is over, and then he does what I like to call a Kamehameha attack, which is called stress output, and everything. I guess it's so much stress that like the world's changing around him, and he unleashes an attack called Burden. And that sends Shigaraki flying, like destroying everything in its path. Shigaraki is in the middle of it. And now it seems like Shigaraki now has all his memories at his disposal. Start learning that his grandfather and his grandmother were pretty kind. What I remember is yeah, they were pretty kind. His mother was also very kind. His sister was also very, very kind. His father, on the other hand, wasn't. And we also learned that for the main reasons because his mother wasn't around for him when he was growing up. She ended up dying in a fight that he knew nothing about, which is it really opens your eyes to the trouble and the problems that Shigaraki went through growing up. He was like beaten. He was an outcast. He wanted to be a hero when he was growing up. His father wouldn't let that happen. It's just like Shigaraki had a very, very dark. It's like I will say this. I compare this. This could have been Deku if Deku hadn't had the upbringing that he had. As this is happening, we learn that Gargantua Makia is finally in the city, heading towards Shigaraki. And as this is happening, we learned that Shigaraki got off a tiny attack on his finger again as he unleashed Burden. Shigaraki's quirk, as I like to call it, decaying unbound. Shigaraki can literally, I think now he can just decay anything he wants now. It's actually kind of ridiculous. But Shigaraki here in this entire episode is now just crazy. He's insane. But it seems like now he his senses have been honed. He can now I guess before his memories weren't fully back, but now they're fully back. As he says this, he grabs the hand that's normally on his face and puts it back on there. Shigaraki now knows what he wants to do, and it's just purely destroy. And probably for good reason, when you really think about it. For purely good reason. Well, Discord, you really decided to reveal that I'm live now? How dare you? And then we get the first glimpse of his flashback as a kid. Like, he was being dragged away by his father. He really looks like Deku here, and there's one image at 1326. And this is when he was 5 years old, and his name was Tenko Shimura. his father really does not like uh, uh, the idea of heroes, and we really see this here in this entire flashback. Like he really doesn't like it because his mother was a hero and she ended up dying to save strangers. It's the same like it's the same footnotes from before. People not liking heroes because heroes save strangers versus saving their family. Shigaraki wants to be a hero because it looks like he looks up to Nana Shimura. I would figure, but he's never met her, so he probably looks up to heroes. We also learned apparently a part of Shigaraki might have. It's like I feel like his scratching has something to do with his decaying ability, but I'm guessing Shigaraki just has like sensitive skin. Seeing a little bit more about like Tomo. Yeah, we also learned the main reason why he got punished there is because he was playing heroes and his father didn't like it. Especially since apparently Tenko was pretending to be All Might. Like, I don't know, it seems like there's a lot. I feel like there's a lot, like, it's also still missing here. We also don't really truly know, like, when his father's mother died. But it seems like it was relatively close enough. At this point, also, the timeline, it seems like Tenko would have already given her One for All ability over to, I forgot his name, but who would ultimately become All Might. We see that Shigaraki was pretty much punished his entire all the time when he was like 5 years old because he wanted to be a hero. He felt like he's rejected by his father. It's ridiculous actually how sad it is. And we also see we get a chance to see that at least if he doesn't know who Nana is, he gets a chance to see her in a picture with his father. He looks really happy. And like his older sister really wants to cheer him on to be a hero. And it seems like this is the person that's in his life that could have easily helped him like stay on the side of justice and good and everything, but he first learns this. And I believe this is the portion of the no, actually I think no, he does awaken his quirk. Ends up like as he's playing with the dog, he ends up throwing the ball and the ball ends up like peeling a little bit. As he figures out he has a quirk, it's his father ends up finding out that he saw his grandmother's photo. He's looking insanely pissed. His older sister is throwing him under the bus. This is going downhill real quickly, and he essentially grabs him, and he already says, hey, this is not your grandmother. This is somebody who abandoned her child. We can see the expression of pain on his face, but like Shigaraki is yelling, Tenko is yelling out for help for somebody, but his parents, every single one of them, even his older sister, are just letting his father like beat him, and like this is a start of the downhill trajectory of Shigaraki's life. We now time has passed, the entire day has passed, and we see Shigaraki's father looking at some notes of his mother when she left that night. Yeah, it looks like these are notes from the last time she had a chance to see him. She's apologizing for not being there for him. She feels really bad about it. But we do see that as he was growing up here, he definitely had some times with her. It's like it wasn't all bad. Like she really wanted to be there for him. It also seems like I don't know if that's her quirk or not, but her hands are insanely bigger in that image with him as a kid because they seem smaller here. So I'm almost curious. I wonder if that was her quirk. Seems kind of odd. I wonder if she can enlarge her limbs. That's oddly similar to someone else in the My Hero universe who has the ability to make her hands bigger. We see that apparently his father seems to realize that he went too far. His wife is saying, like, how dare you put your hands on him? I thought you wanted a happy family. We see that he's regretting this, and Shigaraki isn't in the backyard crying, holding his dog, with his hand. By the way, all his fingers are on the dog. He grips him on and ends up decaying his pet dog. The color, it goes out of the dog's eyes and it turns into a crumbling statue. And we see a blood puddle and pieces of his dog all in it. He doesn't realize what happened. He's freaking out. And his older sister comes out to apologize. And as she does this, she's going to see the dog. And she's going to run. And Shigaraki is having a panic attack. He can't even tell her what happened. She freaks out. She begins to run. Shigaraki lunges at her, ends up decaying her in the process. Essentially, from this point on, Shigaraki ends up inadvertently killing his family. Every single one of them, and ends up actually killing his father in a fit of rage once he sees him. And we see that Shigaraki's quirk is so under control, is so not under control that he ends up like decaying the backyard. And we also see the first bits of Shigaraki's hair losing its color. His parents are like, I mean, everybody's just terrified, as they would be when they see their child's ability like out of control. He tries to go and he tries to go and hug his mother, ends up decaying them, decaying her. He decays his grandmother and his grandfather all in the process. Like Shigaraki, I look at like the biggest thing here is like Shigaraki is like crying. He eventually comes down to the fact that he hates everybody. It seems like, look here too, if he decays the ground, and it seems like it decays his mother just on the premise of her being in contact with the ground that's decaying. As his hair is losing color, you go back inside. His father is looking for everybody, and Bruce finds everybody dead in his backyard. Shigaraki's hair is turning white. I forgot the name of this syndrome too, but it's apparently a syndrome that hasn't really been 100% confirmed yet. But you can experience so much trauma that your hair just turns flat white. His father finds him. His father is purely terrified. Ends up grabbing what I don't know what that is and starts beating his son over the head with it. This causes his son to lunge at him with killing intent this time, and he ends up grabbing his father's face and ends up decaying it. But not only decaying his father, he ends up decaying the entire ground, which essentially is what leaves him homeless and without a family. We now know that Shigaraki killed his parents. He killed his sister, he killed his grandfather, he killed his grandmother, he killed his mother not intentionally, and ends up killing his father intentionally. After he does that, we see everything decaying around him, and we see him just a young Shigaraki standing in the middle of rubble with this creepy grin on his face. It shows that he's finally broken. And we now know, it's like I said before, it's an eye-opener. It shows why Shigaraki is the way he is. And not to dismiss any of the evil he's done, but it shows why he's the way he is. Another thing, like, it depends on the environment sometimes in which you're raised that determines your outcome. Shigaraki had just a better family and a father that didn't beat him over the head every chance he got because he wanted to be a hero. Shigaraki could have probably turned out to be a decent kid, even with a quirk that destroys everything he touches. But that is it. We have the origin of Shigaraki. That is a very interesting origin story for a villain. And I actually find it really interesting. I don't know where they're going to go from here, but I cannot wait. And I guess with that, I'm going to say that I think that's going to be the end of the podcast. We didn't even bridge an hour. That's what happens when you don't have anybody to bounce ideas off and keep you going in a general direction and on a topic long enough to bridge an hour. I want to say that there may not be a podcast next week because these episodes I can't keep them going any longer than maybe up to an hour, but close to it anyway. So it's probably gonna be best that we go on a hiatus for the remainder of this month. When this episode goes up on RSS, that will be the final episode. I will be watching these episodes as they come out still, and we'll come back to do a really condensed review of My Hero and any of the episodes from my Shaman King that we didn't review. So the review that I've done already will still stand. I think there will only be 2 more episodes that we'll probably have to review because we go off the whole one off a week thing. It'll just be My Hero mostly, and then like one set of Shaman King episodes to review. So I guess with that, this is gonna be the shortest episode to the Anime4All podcast, but hey, maybe it'll be the most popular one. Uh, I'm gonna leave the air open for you guys. If there's anything you like to discuss in the comment section below, or even in Twitter, my Twitter handle is the Game Hunter underscore. You can just type in the Game Hunter 09, and that should at least allow you to post directly to me. If there's anything specific in the Shaman King episode that you wanted to discuss or know a little bit more about, or have Jock weigh his opinion in, you're always more than welcome to shoot those in my direction. And I guess I will be seeing guys, I guess, in October. See you guys then.